If you don't take an antimicrobial for SIBO or SIFO / don't get tested and just work on
balancing
balancing gut bacteria with diet, can you heal your gut?
In general, no, for the most part, unless constipation is a huge reason behind your SIBO. So if you're just so severely constipated, that is causing you to have backflow from your colon, your large intestine, into your small intestine. Your microbes are really able to make their way up because of severe constipation. Sometimes if you do get your bowels moving and you don't have a large extent of SIBO, or you test positive but barely positive, sometimes if you can get your bowels moving, it will resolve the SIBO. That's extremely rare. For the most part, once you have SIBO, you do need to address it with some type of antibiotic that your care team has prescribed. And I get this question a lot from my patients, but shouldn't I avoid antibiotics if I already have IBS and dysbiosis? Work with your care team and try to understand your history with using them, but also know that the antibiotics that were developed very recently within the last, decade or so ago, it is not a broad spectrum antibiotic. So the antibiotic that's used, usually it's only active in your small intestine. And so it's meant to target the bacterial overgrowth, and it can be less damaging or deleterious to your overall microbiome. So that could be an option. Antimicrobials, you guys, aren't always best. So even though, yes, they are natural, or they're like natural herbs, they're natural antimicrobial agents, taking round after round after round of antimicrobials could actually be worse for you than just taking a dose of the antibiotics. So work with your care team, understand your history, and ask yourself, how many rounds of antimicrobials have I taken? Make sure, please, that you're working with someone, because I've had this happen to many of my patients where they're like, I didn't really have symptoms. I took a stool test just because, or, my family members were taking one, or
I got a Groupon for a stool test.
I decided to, and I saw that I had some overgrowth of something on my stool test. And so I took antimicrobials, and for the last 2 years, I've had debilitating SIBO IBS symptoms.
Right.
So again, please work with someone who knows what they're doing with some of these antimicrobials. Be mindful, because they can actually trigger worsened dysbiosis because they are broad spectrum, even though they're natural. And I might recommend them to my patients. I'm not hating on them, but you want to use them intelligently, because they are broad spectrum. So if you keep taking round after round, you are also removing some of your healthy gut bugs, which we don't want.
Totally. Yeah. So reiterate, guys, this goes back to knowing your why, really getting to that root, so you can have a tailored and specific action plan, which is the how, right? You don't want to just guess, because when you're guessing, we've seen this a lot. You're taking round after round, you're guessing, and things go on for years and years and years longer than they should. And you're in a worse spot. So don't do that.
And this person said, I was given biocidin, which is an herbal antimicrobial. So it's like a more natural antimicrobial. And assumed SIBO without testing, and felt I couldn't digest anything after being on it. So I've seen that happen.
Right.
So it might have wiped out some of your healthy microbes.
Let's take it back to that analogy, guys. So let's say, the analogy, if you guys are just joining, I use an analogy of ecosystems. When you introduce a new animal for whatever reason, could be food poisoning, car accident, scar tissue, antibiotics, whatever, you have an overgrowth or introduction of a new species that's not really supposed to be in this certain environment. For example, the pigs in Texas. What are you going to do? Drop napalm? Are you going to get a machine gun and just shoot all the pigs and hope there's no collateral? And it's horrible, right? So, but that's the idea. So you have to be aware, I'm just going to take these antimicrobials. We want microbes, right? So you want to know what you're doing. Antibiotics. We want life. In your gut is some of the most dense life, just like in the rainforest. Do you want to drop a missile in the rainforest? Do you want to fire and napalm and flamethrower the rainforest? So you have to be careful. There is a time you could do that in a very, what I want to say, detailed and specific way that can be helpful, but not just willy-nilly throwing gasoline around and lighting things on fire, and guessing. You don't want to do that, right? So just like you wouldn't do it in the environment, or hopefully you wouldn't do that, you want to be very targeted and specific in your own body, which is your inner ecosystem. So Very, very important.